Alright, so it's been a little while since I've updated everybody on edit mode, but I've got another really large piece done. Now this one's taken a while, which is because there's just so much involved. So this is going to be a longer video just because there's a lot to go over. And obviously big thanks to Fredrik, he's been helping throughout and adding new features and helping me get stuff working. But I've reworked the upper menu of edit mode to add a new section for edit settings. And edit settings now is going to encompass a bunch of stuff. So I'm going to walk through it and try to explain everything, and I'll have a write-up. So first things first, I have changed the upper menu. The idea is to try to make the menus kind of all related to each other. So I'm going to go into edit mode.
Edit mode.
And now in edit mode, you still have
Edit style.
your edit style,
Edit color.
edit color,
Edit font.
edit font,
Edit track.
edit track, but now I've created a new submenu called edit settings.
Edit settings.
So in edit settings there's a bunch of stuff, so we're going to go through all this.
Select options.
So now we're in edit settings. So your first is,
Edit volume.
so you've got edit volume, which is known, and that's existed, but I took it out of the upper menu, put it in the settings menu. But now this is one of the new menus, and this actually has a lot in it, so we'll walk through it.
Edit style settings.
So this is edit style settings. So within edit style settings, actually let me go through this settings menu first. So edit style settings, we'll talk about that in a second.
Edit control settings.
Edit control settings. So that's actually the edit gestures, but combined with a bunch of new stuff as well. So now all your controls for gestures and other stuff will be in that. And then we have
Edit clash threshold.
I spoke over that, but that's edit clash threshold. So now you're going to be able to edit your clash threshold right on the blade.
Edit blade length.
Edit blade length, that was originally outside of settings, that's now in settings, and that lets you adjust the length of any blade.
Edit brightness.
And edit brightness, which actually lets you dim all your blades with one control. And that's a feature that Fredrik added, and I put it into the menu. But let's go back around.
Edit volume.
So we'll go to
Edit style settings.
So edit style settings. Now, edit style settings is going to read the actual style on the blade that's active. So this is only a single blade, so I don't have to pick a blade. But whatever settings are set up within the style to be edited, you'll now be able to do from this menu. So we'll go in.
Select option.
So we're going to choose options. So I'll run through what options, and the options are going to change depending on what the style contains. But so in this one,
Ignition options.
so you have ignition options. So we'll take a look at ignition options. So what's going to happen now is within the style, you can actually have several ignition options set up, and you can toggle them. So one style can have several different ignition options, and you can change them on different presets however you want. So we'll go in. So now this does a preview of your ignition option as you rotate. So you can rotate right or left to change them, and it's going to read whatever's set up within the style. So this one has a few different ones I built, so let's take a look. So that's a center out ignition. That's a spark tip ignition. That's a regular ignition, just a wipe up. That's a color cycle. And with the unstable blade, the color cycle kind of blends in quickly. And that's a wipe in, so that's from the top down. And then back to the spark tip. And you can choose any of these that you want. So let's leave the spark tip, so we're going to select it.
Save style settings.
So now you can toggle all that. So now on top of that, we've also got
Ignition time.
ignition time. So you can actually set the ignition time. And so Obi-Wan Kenobi a little while back introduced the wavelength function, and Fredrik's now modified and added that to the OS for OS 6. And what the wavelength function does is you can actually set your ignition, your retraction, your Prion, and other effects to time themselves automatically to whatever sound is playing. So I'm building those into the styles for edit mode. But on top of that, I'm also adding a second function, so you can actually choose your ignition time or choose auto, and we'll show that. So I'm going to go into ignition time. So now I can make my ignition go a little bit longer by turning. So it'll slow down as I turn. So if you like a longer, slower ignition, you can increase the time. If you want to have a faster ignition, you can decrease the time. And the way it's set up is every turn, left or right, changes the speed by 100 milliseconds. So now we're going to get towards a really fast ignition. And then the way it's set up, when I get to 0 for ignition time, it actually switches to the auto, which is the wavelength. So we'll show that. So that's probably pretty fast. And that's probably the 100. No, that's the 100.
Auto.
So now auto times itself. So, and then that's as low as you can go. So if you get to 0, it does the auto, which uses the actual sound file. And if you don't like that, you can increase it again. So that's really fast. So that's a pretty good speed, so we'll save that.
Save. Style settings.
So now, just like ignition, we're going to have retraction options.
Retraction options.
So this is retraction options. So now I can see different retraction options, and I can switch through them, again, as long as they're built into the style. So that's a wipe up. So it's going to show it, and then it has to reignite. So it's a quick show of the retraction, and then an automatic ignite. Because edit mode works while the blade is on. So you're going to see your animation and your sound, but it's going to ignite itself. So that's the color cycle. That's a wipe in. That's a split. That was a wipe in. That was probably a spark tip wipe in. And a wipe up. Color cycle. So this one I think only had 5 options. So it just cycles through them, and then you pick the one you want.
Save. Style settings.
And then just like ignition, you're going to have options for the time.
Retraction time.
So retraction time. So now if you wanted to, so this one I think is set to the sound, right?
Auto.
So it's set to auto, which means it's going to time itself to the retraction sound, or I can set my own speed. So that's really fast. That's still pretty fast. And you can find the time you like and then set it.
Save. Style settings.
And then we've got,
Clash lockup position.
so clash lockup position.
Cancel.
Oops.
Style settings. Ignition time. Retraction
And I
option.
didn't want to hit cancel.
Retraction time. Clash lockup position.
So clash lockup position. So now this is going to be your lockup position. You can move it, and clash and lockup use the same position just so they stay in sync. But what this does now, if you just have a regular localized clash or lockup, that's where it'll appear. If you have responsive, which is what most people use, this setting actually determines the midpoint, and then when you actually do lockup and clash, it will be based on your blade angle using the responsive controls. But this will let you adjust your clash and lockup position to your specific use, and then you can set it.
Save. Style
And then when you
settings.
actually do clash and lockup, if you have responsive, it's going to use that set value as the center point, and then it'll move up and down from there based on your blade angle. So that's another setting. And then we've got,
Drag size.
so drag size. So you can set how big your drag area is. So if you want to shrink it, or you can increase it and get to where you want, and then save.
Save. Style settings.
And then
Ignition options.
And then we're back around ignition options. So you also have the emitter size. So if you have an emitter effect, you can set that. Now this style didn't have that. You can also do Prion options, which I can show. That's in a different style. So so Prion actually has a lot of changes coming in OS 6. So one of the changes is if you don't have a Prion sound in your font, but you have a Prion sound, or but you have a Prion effect, the Prion effect is actually ignored. So it needs the sound in order to both display and also to be edited. So if you have, even though this style actually contains a Prion effect, you can't edit it because the font doesn't have Prion, and it also won't display. But if you put this same style on a font, or if you change the font to a font that has a Prion, then you would actually be able to edit the Prion to the option. You can also set the Prion size, depending on the Prion. So some Prions have fixed sizes, some of them have their own thing. Again, it's going to be reading the style. But a bunch of changes coming to Prion, and then also the wavelength function all the Prion effects in the library will be switched over so that they auto-time themselves, so you won't have to adjust those timings anymore. But since this font doesn't have a Prion sound, I can't edit the Prions. But so then,
Ignition time.
so we're back around. So let me cancel out of this one.
Cancel. Settings menu.
And now let's go to,
Edit control settings.
so control settings. So
Select option.
control settings is this is a combination of the gesture menu, where you can turn on and off all the gesture ignitions, retractions, etc. But now there's also settings in there, so I'm going to walk through them.
Thrust ignition.
So you can turn on or off your thrust ignition,
Stab ignition.
turn on or off your stab ignition.
Force push.
You can do force push.
Force push length.
Now force push length is actually a new setting. And what that is you can set how far that force push action has to go. And this one just uses, so if you go in, so you can increase it, and it's just going to make a sound for the increase. So you'd want to dial this in and then test it, obviously. Or you can decrease. And there's a minimum and maximum.
Minimum setting.
So that's your minimum setting, which is a really small move. So that might be too sensitive. So if you're at the minimum and you want to increase the sensitivity, you just turn it to the right and increase it. And I think I usually run around a 3.
Save.
So
Gesture
I'll save
menu.
that.
Twist. Retraction.
So you can do twist retraction.
Lockup delay.
So lockup delay, that's another new setting you can do. That's for battle mode. And you can again increase it and decrease it. And this is again, you would test during usage, but you can come into edit mode and edit it. So you can increase. And you can increase this one quite a bit, but obviously the longer the delay, the harder it is to trigger clash. So you got to find that kind of good zone. And then I think this has a minimum on it.
Minimum setting.
So that's the minimum. So that would be the quickest. So again, I usually go around the middle. So I would save that. And again, these these kind of settings you do have to actually test. So you set them in edit mode, test them, and then come back into edit mode. Because there's no way to tell you how that's going to work from edit mode.
Save. Gesture
But you can
menu.
set that.
Power lock.
So power lock. So this is another new feature. So what power lock is it's a change to my prop file. So typically in my prop file, you would just click the power button and it would then turn your blade off. Some people like the held power button to be able to turn the blade off. Because of how I have all my buttons set up, I can't use the held power button as power off. It just takes away too many options. So I've added what I'm calling power lock. What power lock does is if you activate power lock, it turns off your single click power button for turning the blade on and off. Now this is also, you can do this in battle mode automatically, but this gives you the alternate control. So if I do power lock, what's going to end up happening is my power button will no longer turn the blade off. But if I want to turn the blade off with a button, you'll actually hold aux and power until the blade goes off. So power lock essentially switches from just a click on power button to retract the blade to a held of both buttons to retract the blade. So it's an option you can turn on or off, and you can leave it on. So if you like that setting and you don't want your power button to do anything while the blade is lit in terms of retraction, you can just activate power lock. You can also activate it from the start, but you can change that setting. So if we go into power lock,
Disabled.
so right now it's disabled, so I can turn right,
Enable.
enable it.
Save. Gesture menu.
So now I can show that by exiting here, but let me go through the rest of the menu. So now my power button wouldn't just, if I click it, it won't turn the blade off. In order to turn the blade off with buttons, you would hold both buttons until the blade retracts. And it's a long hold on both buttons. But now let's go.
Swing ignition.
So swing ignition is already there. You can enable, disable.
Swing on speed.
Swing on speed can now be set. And again, just like the other, just like lockup delay and the thrust length, you would just go in, set it, and test it. And it does also have a minimum and a maximum. But now if you find that the swing on is too sensitive, you can go increase the swing on speed right in this edit mode.
Twist ignition.
And then we're back around. So I'll cancel out of that.
Cancel. Main menu.
So now, oops, that went to main.
Copy preset. Edit settings.
So I have a button to fix because that shouldn't have gone to main menu. But let's go into edit settings.
Select option.
So now,
Edit volume. Edit style settings. Edit clash threshold.
So now I'm in edit clash threshold. And just like it sounds, you can actually edit your clash threshold from here. So you can increase.
Maximum setting.
And you have a maximum setting. Maximum setting is 4.0. Now, if you set your, so if you find your clash is too sensitive, you can increase it. Again, you would test out of edit mode. If you find it's not quite sensitive enough to trigger, so 4 is pretty high, you could bring it down. And with the clash threshold, it's going to be 0.25 each turn. So if you want to keep it, so 4 being the max, if I step down 4 spots, that's going to be a 3, which is usually where I run.
Save. Settings menu.
And again, you would test that outside of edit mode. And then
Edit blade length.
so edit blade length we've shown before, but if you needed to adjust your blade length, so say like right now this is set too long, so there should be a white pixel at the tip. So there it is. So I had this set 1 pixel too long. Now I've got my blade. You'll see the white tip flashing. That's the new end of the blade. I can save that.
Save. Main menu.
So now I've got my blade length set right. That button needs to be fixed. A lot of menu changes, so I just have adjustments to do.
Preset. Edit settings. Select option.
And then this is the last one.
Edit brightness.
So edit brightness. So now you can actually dim your blade from the settings menu. And then, so obviously you're going to have
minimum setting.
so there is a minimum setting, and this is, it might not even show on camera so much anymore. We don't want to go below like 1% because essentially when you get towards 0 it turns the blade off. So this is the minimum brightness, but essentially it's already pretty dim, and then you can increase.
Maximum setting.
Maximum is full brightness,
Save. Settings
so you can
menu.
save that. So now all of that is built into this new settings menu. So the one thing with the brightness menu is that affects all blades. So if you had accents or multiple blades or whatever, the edit brightness is going to dim them all equally. If you want to individually change the brightness on specific blades or specific effects, you can use the power save from the style library that already existed in OS 5. You can also, in edit colors, you can actually dim the colors using the black level. So you can also just dim specific effects. So there's a lot of different ways to dim the blade. The actual edit brightness just dims everything on your saber automatically. So if you're in like say you're outside, or you have environments where the blade's just too bright to actually use, you just go in and it's going to dim everything for you. If you wanted to dim specific things, there's actually other options. Power save would be an easy one because that's on demand. That's built into your styles. Or if you want to go to specific colors within a style, you would actually use edit mode, the color editing, and go to black level, and you can drop the brightness within black level there. So a lot of options on that. But obviously, oh, I wanted to show the Prions. So let me exit.
Cancel. Main menu. Exit.
Oh, I have power lock on. So look, my power button doesn't work anymore. So now, because I activated power lock, I'm going to hold both buttons to retract. So that's the power lock is now active. And then let's go change presets.
Select preset.
Alright, so this has a Prion sound, and it has this Prion effect already built in. So this uses the faulty ignition. So now, this is built in, so now let me, again I have power lock active. Actually I could do twist off. And now let's go activate edit mode, and I want to show the edit style settings for Prion.
Edit mode.
So let's go to edit style settings.
Edit style. Edit color. Edit font. Edit track. Edit settings.
So edit settings,
Select option. Edit volume. Edit style settings.
edit style settings.
Select option.
And now, I already know Prion is at the end, so if I turn, left, it'll actually go there.
Prion options.
So these are my Prion options, and again, you build in different Prions into a specific style, and then you can choose from them. So we're going to go in.
Select option.
So now I've got one Prion active. Let's take a look at a different Prion. So this is a different Prion effect. This is the overload effect. And these are again auto-timed with the wavelength function. So now that was I think that was overload. Now if I wanted to do a different one, so this is sparking. So I can preview the sparking, and then I think I only had 3 on this one. Yeah, so this is the faulty ignition. And then we'll save that one.
Save.
So now, so you can actually build more than 3. For testing, I only have 3 Prions in this one. And again, the Prions, as a whole in the OS, will only be editable and active if your font contains a Prion sound. So in the past, for 5.7, if you had a Prion effect assigned, but you didn't have a Prion sound, the Prion effect would still actually run. And we didn't have the auto timing, so you had to adjust the timings. Now it's going to auto time itself, and it's actually going to only show and be editable if the font you have active contains a Prion sound. So it's just another upgrade and improvement. But so now that's all built in there.
Cancel. Settings menu. Cancel. Main menu. Exit.
So again, I have power lock active. I'm used to clicking the power button. So hold both buttons would then do it. And if you don't like power lock, you just go back into edit edit controls, and then choose the power lock and disable power lock, and then that would reactivate your power button to work normally. So obviously the new edit settings is a huge addition. There's a ton of stuff in here. I got the write-up, and I'm still finishing. As you noticed, I had a couple menus where the buttons were working a little bit different. That's because I just literally restructured the whole menu system. So I obviously missed a couple. That'll be fixed. I've got a little bit more testing. There's one more piece that's still just being finalized. But my hope, and this is the question I keep getting asked, my hope is to finish my development of edit mode in the next week or 2. Don't hold me to it because I do have a day job. And then once I'm done, I'm going to submit it to Fredrik. Now, some of the stuff Fredrik's helped me with, some of the stuff Fredrik's provided code, but there's a lot of portions of the actual menu system that I've developed the code. So not being a real programmer, kind of being self-taught, I'm sure there's some stuff that Fredrik's going to improve upon and or have, better ways to do. So there's probably going to be a period of time, even after I'm done, where we're just fixing stuff, making it work better, just improving efficiencies. But the goal after that phase would be to then start looking at alpha testing. And for alpha testing, we'll probably pick specific users who have a lot of experience. Just because alpha testing, usually all of a sudden you run into a lot of stuff that you didn't consider for, bugs, etc. So I'll work with Fredrik on that. We'll find some alpha testers. We will get, once alpha testing is done, that's kind of to me, and again, Fredrik controls all the scheduling. So it's really when he's comfortable, when he's happy with how something works. But from my point of view, once we get into alpha testing and out of alpha testing, that's where we'll be able to really determine how much longer till the full release. But again, Fredrik controls full release. I don't. I'm contributing, but the OS is his to control. Plus, again, for all that I've learned, I am still a Padawan on all this. So I still have a lot that I know can be done better, can be done more efficiently, can be improved upon. And so between Fredrik reviewing everything and giving suggestions, and then also the alpha testing, there's probably going to be a lot of cleanup. Hopefully not a lot of bugs. I've been doing a ton of testing to make sure there's no bugs. But so it is moving forward. I know it's been, you don't even remember the last time I updated about edit mode. I was purposely, some of the features I wanted to all group together, and some of them weren't ready yet. So I've kind of been holding off, but I also wanted to put this menu all together before I showed it. So this is the edit settings. Obviously you've got everything else built out. So the goal from day one with edit mode is going to be so you can adjust pretty much everything on your Saber without having to continuously upload. But there's still going to be limits. So it can only edit what has been loaded to the Saber. So if you have a style that you want and you did not upload it to your Saber, there's still no way to put that on. You're still going to have to then re-upload with that new style. But all the styles that are loaded to your Saber are going to be editable as long as they're designed that way. So you'll actually have the option. First of all, edit mode is going to be optional. You'll enable it with a define. If you don't want edit mode at all, you don't have to use it. If you want edit mode, you'll enable it. And then with edit mode, the styles have to be designed to handle edit mode. So there is actually going to be a new syntax, and there's new variables that get put into styles. That's what enables color editing. That's what enables the style settings and everything that I've shown. So there's going to be a long write-up and changes to your styles in order to make all this work. But if you're happy with the old way of doing